ask for it.
Because I didn't, but the question is the answers. It isn't the question, it's the answers. So the first question I have, is it okay if I, Dr. Bowden, is it okay if I address Mitzi?
Absolutely.
Okay. So my first question is for Mitzi, and I see Lynn is coming up to bat as a reinforcement.
She's on deck.
I take this very seriously. So we started off the meeting talking about the hurricane, and we talked a lot about the administrative leadership, the principals and assistant principals, and we kind of touched on it. But some of the unsung heroes were the custodians and the facilities workers, and these people are the ones who get paid the least amount of money. And so when we talk about increasing their health insurance costs, it hits them the hardest, more so because it's not prorated based upon your pay. So I take this part of my job very seriously. So my first fundamental question is we show, I'll use the budget and actuarial, interchangeably. If you want me to be specific about one or the other, just let me know. We're showing that the fund balance will go up $3 million. And I'm just going to round numbers. If you want me to get specific, I will, but we can deal with round numbers, let's see. Mm-hmm. So we have it going up $3 million. So my question is if we have the fund balance going up $3 million, what is the need to raise the healthcare costs for our staff?
Okay, so the healthcare costs are going to increase, or are projected or have been requested to increase by 1.9%. We can keep them flat and not have them increase at all and still be actuarially sound. The reason that we've built in a small cushion is in case of the event of extraordinary claims, which we had in our first year. We've only been self-insured now for about a little over a year and a half. So there's always that concern of not knowing exactly what may happen. Two, we used funds from another funding source in order to fund the required state reserve, that 60-day reserve, and so the goal was to, over the next 3 years, repay that fund. If we choose not to increase the rates, then it will just take us a longer period of time to repay the other fund. And then the other option, or the other idea behind the rate increase, was that there's been a lot of discussion about opening or wanting to open clinics and operate clinics. And so, again, the costs associated with operating a clinic probably should be borne by where those fees are coming in from. So those were the rationales for the increase. The actuaries have actually said we don't need to increase our rate and we are fine for the calendar year 2018. I just felt it would be a little bit more prudent of us to have an incremental small increase, and I think it's much easier for people to handle an incremental increase instead of having to come back one year with a large increase request also. So
if we choose not to raise the rate on the custodians, mm-hmm. will the fund balance go up, stay the same, or go down?
If we choose not to raise the
rates, what happens to the fund balances? Go up?
Well,
down?
Estimated.
Right. Everything's budgeted.
Well, right, and it's still estimated to probably increase incrementally.
So how much if we did not raise the rates, how much would the fund balance go up if, based upon current projection? The answer is $2 million. How much would it go up?
He answered his own question. I'm sorry.
How much would the fund balance go up if we chose not to raise the rates?
Well, you just said $2 million.
$2 million. That's why. Okay. Well, I saw you were looking for the answer. I was trying to help you out. So my point is if we chose not to raise the rates for the employees, our fund balance would still go up. It would still grow, and it would grow to of a rate of $2 million. So $2 million. So let's put that in context. So how much is the fund balance? Just so we get in context, how much $2 million? What percentage $2 million is? Is $2 million, 10%, 5%? Is it a statistically significant number? The $2 million increase if we chose not to raise the rates.
Okay, so the estimate was 1.7 for the surplus with no increase. And that was based on projected.
I was rounding. So, okay. So is the budget, the fund balance right now is $14 million?
Correct.
Thank you.
there's a incurred but not paid in claims, which is approximately $4 million. We have a 60-day reserve requirement with the Office of Insurance Regulation 11208, which is another $7+ million. So after that point, I've only got $3 million of fund balance remaining, of which I still owe the fund that gave us the funds $6.8 million.
Right. So my point is, of that $3 million you just talked about, it's going to go up to 5 because it's going to go up. It's going to go up 3 to 6. It's going to double this year,
provided that we have the same claims experience
right.
this year.
We're assuming. I'm sorry. We're assuming that the claims are. There's certain assumptions here. Certain assumption is that the employees get the plans as the actuarial projected that they would get, and the other assumption is that the claims will come in at a certain rate. Those are the two biggest assumptions, right?
Yes.
And so, for the purpose of discussion, I'm assuming that those assumptions are correct.
Right. The concern is that we have very small amount of self-insurance history behind it.
Right. So if we assume that those things are correct, my point is it's the difference between going from $3 million to $5 million or $3 million to $6 million, and I think $3 million to $5 million is a substantial jump. It's not double, because if you raise the rates, but we can get from $3 million to $5 million without raising the rates of the employees. We can increase 66%, a rate jump, fund balance increase by not even raising the rates of the employees. That's my point. Versus if we raise the rate, it'll increase by 100%, correct?
If we do the 1.9% rate increase, yes, it will add money into the self-insurance fund, of which we can then eventually repay the fund source that gave it the money to do and also maybe be able to use the funds for the operations of clinics.
But we still would be able to do that even if we didn't raise the rates of the employees. That's what I'm saying.
It would just take longer.
Right. Instead of it going up 66%, it would go up 100%. And having things grow at a 66% rate is a rather large growth rate. That, in my opinion, I'm not asking you to comment on that. In my opinion, having a fund balance grow at 66% in 1 year is a rather large jump. So if we can put that off to the side for a second, and if we can talk about the actuarial study.
Yes.
And so the actuarial study, I'm just calling it an actuarial study. I know it's not an actuarial. I'm referring to what do you want me to call it? The spreadsheet from Aon?
It's the spreadsheet from Aon.
A spreadsheet from Aon, and Aon is the company who are the actuaries for the district, correct? Correct.
They're the broker of record.
Broker of record. So you want me to say the Aon spreadsheet for ease of discussion, Mitzi?
That's fine.
Okay. So the Aon spreadsheet says that the school board is going to have to contribute, again, round numbers, 40, I'm sorry?
46.
46, 47. I was going to say 47, but $46 million? Is that
correct? That's what the sheet says.
That's what the sheet says. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what are we going to be in our internal service budget that we're going to be voting on later?
Right.
What does that say that we're going to charge the school district?
The internal service fund reflects $43 million, and that's based upon a projected increase over the prior year actual for the fiscal year. Again, this is based on a calendar year. What you have on that spreadsheet is calendar year. And I understand there's big differences, but we base the budget upon our actual revenues received by the school district and from employees.
So what would be some of those things that would cause a $4 to $5 million gap because it's calendar versus fiscal year?
Incorrect assumptions, I would imagine, about the distribution of the plans and the number of people covered.
I guess, but I would think that if you can't hear me? Okay.
No, he wants to.
Right.
The floor.
Well, I asked in the very beginning. So my question is. You maybe lost train of thought when you interrupted me, Caroline, but that's okay. I interrupted you early, so now we're even. What I was going to ask was, so if you think that the actuarials are incorrect, which we're entitled, we don't have to listen to the actuarials, that they're more of a guide than a rule. I would think that we would have some sort of memo of justification of why we departed from the actuarial study, because I give great weight to the actuaries, and so if the actuaries say that we should put X in, and we decide to put Y in, which we're entirely entitled to, I think that should be backed up with. And this is just my own belief, not the rest of the school board. I think that because of the amount of money we're talking about, we're talking about millions of dollars now. We're talking real money here. That we should have some sort of justification of why there would be a delta. Do you disagree with that?
And I agree. No, I agree wholeheartedly. I just need for you to know that this document, the self-insurance fund document, was prepared before we received this information.
Well, I agree. That's very important, too. So that was prepared in July, and then, was it August 23rd? Right, August 23rd, right again. The Excel spreadsheet was created, was sent over from the actuary, and then we were given this document a couple of weeks. Why was the budget document not changed in the meantime?
Eric, as the maker of the motion, I think you've brought up some very good points.
But I'm not getting my question.
And she's gone and brought up some other things like the clinics and these other costs. As the maker of the motion, I'd like to withdraw the motion. And again, discuss this at a workshop. I mean, you brought up some points.
Okay.
And we bring up the cost of the clinics and operating. I want to know where we are on that. And I was under the impression that having clinics was going to eventually lower our costs, not increase our costs. So I'd like to have this discussion. And you said about the times that these papers were coming and going. You didn't have one when you had the other. Let's take a breath. Okay. And let's, can I just withdraw the motion?
Since the discussion has started, I think, again,
All right.
The chair should ask, is there unanimous consent to have the motion withdrawn?
Okay. Is there unanimous consent to have the motion withdrawn?
Yes.
Yes.
Hearing no objection, then I think the motion can be withdrawn.
It's withdrawn.
Okay, if I may, we can amend the budget document even after it's approved to align with what's in the actuarial study. What we can't do is delay open enrollment for our employees. So if we don't have approved rates for 2018, we can't have open enrollment. So
When do you have to have that done by?
Well, this meeting, everything stems on this meeting because of the guides that have.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Sorry.
The open enrollment benefit guides need to be produced, and it takes about a week to get those produced and out to the employees. So in order for that to occur, we're waiting for the decision on these rates, and then they could... all the rates, and then they would be distributed. We're supposed to start October 12th is supposed to be the start of open enrollment. I don't believe.
Well, I would say, what would happen if we voted today and it was voted down? I think we'd have to bring it back anyway, so.
Right. So it's certainly up to you.
At this point, we need to contemplate an October 3rd workshop.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
I think October 17th really puts us behind the 8 ball. I think October 3rd, we could tweak some of those guidelines. At October 17th, we'd have to blow them up.
Okay. Mrs. Ziegler.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Brown, for pulling that, because I think as we go through it, I mean, this is pretty robust, and not having everything in front of us and being able to track what numbers we're throwing around. I'm a visual learner, so I need them in front of me. But I think it's very important that there's a lot of questions that I have in addition to. So I'm glad that we're going to be able to dive in. I guess my biggest thing is I just ask, and perhaps Dr. Bowden, you can identify a better way, but I know that this was forwarded out to all board members as of yesterday, if that's correct. And these are, I know how intense these studies and rates are, but it's significant, and we do expose ourselves as being self-insured. It's a huge exposure, and I know it's something that we've worked for quite a long time to do, and we want to make sure we're doing it right. So I think I'm certain there's methodologies there that would allow a more detailed discussion, but it's important that we have all of that information in advance to be able to, and I have that right now, and I have additional questions too. I just, unfortunately, the timing of it all. So, and quite frankly, I guess my next question though would be, if Dr. Bowden, if I may address Mitzi or Mrs. Corcoran, is in light of, if we do, because we would not, it's clear that we're not going to be taking action on this right now, in October 3rd, because it's a pretty intense amount of information, in the event, would that be moved forward then again to the October 3rd meeting to be newly proposed at the same rates? That's, the timing is what I'm trying to get clarification from the open enrollment standpoint.
It would be both a workshop item and then it would be a board item for action that evening, but certainly it could be subject to amendment.
Correct.
We would have to propose rates. If during the workshop a decision was made to roll back rates or do something different, then you would still take action at the board meeting with amendment. Correct, Mr. Hardy?
Yes, it sounds like from the timing, you're going to need to take formal action on the 3rd. Whatever the motion is that's proposed to you, you can either approve that or amend it or make a different motion.
Follow up, if I may.
So, but it sounds to me like from what I'm hearing of the timing, they can't wait beyond October 3rd if you're going to start open enrollment on October 12th.
To do that.
Okay, follow up, if I may. Okay, and then just, I'm not sure, is this something where we would need, we hire, it's Aon is the broker, do we hire them as actuaries? Are they specifically, I know they're broker of record, but they're actuaries, so they do provide a formal actuarial report, which is the spreadsheet.
No, there's a
PDF.
There's an actuarial report. Okay, there's multiple actuarial reports.
Okay.
We receive an actuarial report on other post-employment benefit costs. We receive an actuarial report on our risk retention funds, so workers' compensation, auto liability, general liability. And then we receive an actuarial report that is filed with the State of Florida Office of Insurance Regulation on our medical and our dental plans. And that is the one that's not completed yet. It's not due till September 30th.
Got it.
Hopefully we can get it done sooner so we can see it.
Okay. Okay, and so at our October 3rd meeting, would this be something that the representatives from our actuaries would be there to support? Because I know, again, throwing a lot of numbers out, and I know I'm familiar, there's a lot of in-depth analysis behind here. So is that something that in the timeline is reasonable for them to be able to?
I don't see why we wouldn't be able to have somebody here.
Thank you.
So our next workshop will be on October the 3rd. And what time would you like to start? I would say 3, but then we have 2 big items, so 2.
Well, in your prior motion, you moved discussion of the SSIS workshop all the way to the 17th. So I don't know if you want to bring it back to the 3rd or not. But if you leave that at the 17th, that leaves you with essentially what I would consider 2 one-hour blocks, one for insurance, and then we could bring in the applicant, Sarasota STEM, in a workshop. So with a 6:30 start time, we could convene at 4, but you might want to leave yourself some time in case this runs long.
We can't start at 4. They have to have time to break down, won't they?
2 or 3. 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Well, you don't have to use that configuration. That's where you're most comfortable.
Okay. We could sit up here.
Excuse me, for clarification, I know Dr. Roca had given us an outline of timeline, so the October 3rd would still allow for proper amount of time for the interviewing and all of that process?
Correct. We had basically scheduled an hour today. We had made the decision that we would spend that hour during a regular board meeting. Now we're just moving that hour to the workshop.
Very good. Thank you.
You know, I don't think it'd be such a bad thing to have that discussion about that charter school at the board meeting. The general public, as a rule, doesn't watch our workshops so much, but they do watch our meetings, and maybe they'd like to hear how we discuss an applicant for charter schools.
Typically in workshop, we discuss items that don't require votes, but if it's the will of the board to do it in a regular board meeting, that's just a scheduling item from my perspective.
I don't know what you're asking, Charlotte.
That we leave the discussion.
That I didn't call.
That we leave the discussion. Yeah, mine's turned off. I didn't even. That we leave the discussion for the STEM Academy at the board meeting, so that the public can see what we go through on the STEM application, on the charter application.
I don't really think it matters. I don't think it matters because I think they watch workshops and they watch.
They do.
Yes.
But I think we can stay on this format. We don't need to have the workshop.
Eric, Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that however we do it, that we leave time enough that we are able to ask questions and get questions answered. And I understand people want the workshop to be as short as possible. I do.
Oh.
But I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that we have enough time that we can fully, discuss and digest things. I think raises for, health insurance and the budget issues. I think approving a charter school, those are very meaty, things that each of us are going to want to have as, an elongated, amount of time to discuss. And so I just want to make sure that when we're talking about 60 minutes for each, I don't advocate that that's enough time for each. That's my own personal preferences. I want to make sure that everybody has a time enough to be able to feel comfortable with how they're going to vote.
That's why I suggested 2 o'clock, to begin at 2 o'clock.
Worst case scenario, we finish early and go to dinner and sing Kumbaya.
So 2 o'clock, all right?
How much time is that?
3.5 hours?
3.5 hours? Okay. As long as I have time enough to ask my question.
Mrs. Ziegler.
No, I agree. I agree, and I know that we can meet with individually, but I think there's value in having some of these discussions with other board members because what I may ask may not be what someone else will ask, and these are very substantial decisions. So I don't know if 3 o'clock is, if we think that's substantial. I don't want to. I just don't want to handicap ourselves to a place where, and we are very tight on time with some of these issues from timeline standpoint. Not up to us. I mean, we have to have decisions. So I would err on the side of caution, in my personal opinion, that we leave ourselves extra buffer time as the in the alternative, because once we get up against that, we are.
That's what I did.
2 o'clock is enough. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 4 hours. You're the chair. I just wanted to add my comment.
As long as we have a shared commitment that nobody goes home on October 3rd until we have rates established.
Oh.
Everybody nod.
I will hope so. No, Mike, I might, as far as I know, I'll be here.
I'll be a little older, but I'll be here.
It's Shirley's birthday, so it should be a long meeting.
No, that was the day before.
Oh.
Okay? So our next meeting will be October the 3rd at 2 p.m., a workshop, and a regular board meeting will be at 6:30 p.m. that same night.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Robinson.
I just want to end by apologizing to Ms. Zucker for interrupting her during the meeting. I apologize. That was rude of me, and I will work to make sure that doesn't happen again. I'm sorry.
Why don't you apologize for not taking a breath, too, and letting me pull us all out of it? I'm kidding.
You're all forgiven.
We do, Madam Chair, of course, have another meeting actually at 5:15 today.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to announce that. 5:15. We have a 5:15 budget meeting today.
That's going to go. Sorry again, Caroline.
That's okay, Eric.
Are we adjourned? Did you say adjourned?
Oh, we're adjourned. Wait.
You're not doing member comment?
They want me to make that noise.